is Rohit who is on the screen.
Yes.
Now I formally request Dhamija ma'am to kindly start the session, please. Thank you.
So good afternoon to all of you, and I welcome you all, and of course Dr. Saksena, for this next webinar of the series of webinars which we are holding to commemorate the Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is being celebrated all over the country to commemorate 75 years of independence, and of course the glorious history of our people, our culture and achievements. So this Mahotsav is dedicated to the people of India who have been instrumental in bringing India to this level and also contributing towards India as a global economic power. To boost this movement, many activities and campaigns have been started and planned by all over India. And we in Skill Council have decided or had planned to hold webinars on different sectors of renewable energy, waste, water management, wastewater management, sustainability, and there's a long list of topics which we have already covered about. I think this is the 78th seminar, and we have had interactions with experts from all over, in fact, not only in India, from abroad also, and we have learned a lot through these interactions. So here in Skill Council, we are focused on all these sectors. We are, for various skilling and training activities and for capacity building. And here, the 4 topics which are going to be covered today, three topics, energy, environment, and health. The focus is there. But the citizen science aspect is not there. The topic today, if you will notice by Dr. Saksena, I was quite intrigued, by seeing the topic, that how citizen science, I'll try to read what is citizen science, how individuals, organizations can collaborate to, to really take forward the scientific process. And the scientific process is, of course, for reducing the impacts of the climate change, for making our lives better, for reducing poverty, for increasing livelihoods. So these are various areas. And of course, health is uppermost. So how individuals and organizations can take this forward and contribute towards all these sectors. That is what is the topic. That is what I could understand. And I'm really very keen to know, because as a citizen, we also have certain responsibilities. We also have some priorities that we can also contribute to the environment, not only through our professional contribution, but personal contribution also. So I really welcome Dr. Saksena, and I'm really keen to hear from you how we as individuals can also contribute more towards these sectors of energy, environment, and health. So I welcome you, Dr. Saksena, and I feel I've been seeing your biodata or CV, and you have a lot of contribution in all the sectors which you have outlined, where you will be connecting with the citizen science. So welcome once again. And now I request Mr. P.B. Singh to kindly introduce you. Thank you very much for accepting our offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO sir, and thank you, ma'am, for welcoming the speaker and other participants. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll welcome you all to the 78th series of webinar. The Skill Council for Green Job is organizing a series of webinars to celebrate Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav as a part of India celebration of 75 years in independence. In this series, SCGJ is inviting eminent and learned speakers in different sectors on sustainable development, renewable energy, and waste management, so as to be deepen the understanding of recent development in these sectors. The first in the series was launched on 24th September 2021. Today we have Dr. Sumeet Saksena, a very experienced, learned, distinguished speaker who will be sharing his expertise and experience on citizen science, application to energy, environment, and health issues. I would like to share his brief profile with all of you. Dr. Sumeet Saksena has a PhD in Environment Science and Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Dr. Sumeet Saxena is a senior fellow at the East-West Center, Honolulu, USA, since 2001. He served as a fellow at the Center for Environmental Study, the Energy and Resources Institute, India from 1988 till 2001. He is also an affiliate graduate faculty, Department of Urban and Regional Planning, and Department of Public Health and University of Hawaii at Manoa. He conducts interdisciplinary research in environmental risk analysis, exposure assessment, environmental health, households, air pollution, urban transport related health issues, emerging infections, disease, environmental justice, impact of peri-urbanization, and public perceptions of environmental risks. His research has been funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation, U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, U.S. Department of State, USAID, the World Bank, etc. Now I'm requesting Dr. Sumeet Saxena to start the presentation. Over to you, Sumeet.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks to the Skill Council of Green Jobs India for inviting me. I know we had been discussing possible dates for a long time, so finally it has worked out. Special thanks to CEO of SCGJ and to Dr. Dhamija and my dear colleague, Mr. P.B. Singh, for the kind words of introduction and for inviting me here. So I will start right now, but I just realized that I'm not very skilled at Zoom when there are two monitors connected to the computer. So if anything is going on, one of you please tell me if something is going on wrong, because I'm not sure which screen to look at right now. So yes, Dr. Dhamija very nicely explained what is citizen science. See, already it's happening. My screen is not moving.
So
Yeah,
yes,
right.
I
Okay.
request you to kindly share your presentation also.
Is it not shared?
No, sir, no, sir. That I am sharing the presentation. I request you to kindly start the presentation.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible, sir. Thank you.
Right. So my objective today on this topic is to raise awareness of an emerging trend for all major stakeholders, for researchers, for practitioners, and I'm guessing that most colleagues at Skill Council can be called practitioners, more the practical experts, and the general public who have chosen to join the seminar. I also like to qualify that this topic is highly interdisciplinary, but I am a natural scientist by training, and that is the lens I will be using to talk about this topic. So as we were informed, this is done under the umbrella of the Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav series of webinars. For those who don't know Hindi or for those who don't know the history of India, basically this is referring to the fact that India gained independence from colonial powers in 1947. 1950, we became a republic. We had a constitution and we became a fledgling democracy. So we are now some kind of a democratic situation, and then many countries followed, got rid of the colonial powers, and most of the countries these days around the world are some shade of democracy or the other. So at least in the political arena, democracy has been achieved by humankind. But I'm going to be talking about some other kind of democracy, and that is the democratizing of science. So there is one definition here of citizen science, which is that it is the democratizing of science and also of the schooling systems in the science education, how they interact with this concept of democratizing science. Very early in my career, I began my job at TERI in 1988. I got a fantastic lesson on what is citizen science, and that relates to another quote that I came about. Of course, Dr. Dhamija has already mentioned that it's the interaction between non-professional scientists and scientists. But also another very interesting quote that we are all scientists, only some of us have chosen to earn a living by using science. That's the only difference. So as I said, 1988, I began my career in TERI, and prior to that, I was a physicist. I worked in the nuclear establishment. And when I joined TERI, I was immediately sent with a fantastic team of colleagues to very remote villages in Garhwal, Himalaya in 89. And within 3 months, so within 6 months, I got an extremely good lesson in democratizing of science. So please be patient while I tell you my story. So already in this webinar series by Skill Council, there have been 3 or 4 people who have spoken about household air pollution from cooking. So I'm not going to talk about that problem per se, just to say that our team was there to measure pollution in rural kitchens. And you can see that one such instrument to measure smoke is attached to this lady who was cooking. And apart from measuring, taking measurements inside, we were also taking measurements outside the house in the middle of the villages. So this is what a typical village in the Garhwal Himalaya looked like at that time, at least. So you can see some instruments being set up there and monitoring is going on. Apart from pollution monitors, we are also measuring weather parameters like temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction. So here's my colleague doing that just outside one of the house. So then here is a close-up of one of the devices. In the background, you can see the lady, there's something strapped to her waist. It's measuring particulate matter using a vacuum pump. But the device in front is measuring carbon monoxide, also a very dangerous gas. So those days we could not afford, or probably there didn't exist, these kind of carbon monoxide devices which had a data logger, but it did have a digital display. So every 1 minute, we used to, in our notebook, note down whatever is being shown on the display, the carbon monoxide level. So yeah, so we 2 of us almost had to sit in the kitchen for 3 hours a day, making these measurements in our notebooks. And every 5 minutes, one of us would go out to make the wind speed measurements and temperature measurements and so on, and come back into the kitchen. So in one such household, there was an old man who was watching us do these experiments. And as all old men in these rural villages, very quiet, just observing what's going on. So then he asked me at one point that why every minute I'm getting up to look at the meter and writing down things on a notebook, what is it? So I explained to him that this is a fatal gas, carbon monoxide. It doesn't have a smell, it doesn't have color, so you cannot see it. And unlike the other machine, for this machine, every 1 minute we have to write down in our notebook, in our diary, what the value is. So he kept quiet for some time, and we continued with our experiment. And at one point of time, a breeze blew by the house. You know, we could hear the wind blow outside the house. And immediately this old man told me, you check your instrument, I think the value would have gone up. And please, I want to remind you, he was not able to see the display, what's on the display. He was far enough, he couldn't see what's on the display. Plus there is so much smoke in the kitchen anyway, even we have difficulty reading the display. So I just went to the display and looked, and yes, he was right. This carbon monoxide level had shot up. He said that, you know, the wind is blowing and this carbon monoxide level has shot up. My jaw dropped and I was shocked. And then I remembered my physics, you know, the Bernoulli principle, fluid dynamics, whatnot. if you have a structure, if you have a room oriented towards the north or south or east or west, whatever direction, if the door is in a certain orientation, if the window is in a certain orientation, if the wind is blowing in a certain direction at a certain speed, then Bernoulli's principle comes into effect, and that results in a pressure differential between the inside of the house and the outside of the house. That pressure differential causes the air exchange rate to change, and that change in air exchange rate causes the concentration of the gas to go up or go down. So that was my physics from and my training in environmental engineering that was trying to understand what he said. And yet I was so shocked that how did he know all this? Because we assume that these are people who have had no formal education. I would be surprised if he was really even more than 4th grade educated or 8th grade educated. So that that is a lesson that even till date I remember, that how did this old man, he must have been in 60s and 70s, what was his intuition that told him that the breeze is blowing outside and therefore the ventilation inside the house would change in ways that not only did he think of a change, but he actually predicted correctly that the carbon monoxide level will go up. So that is what the previous quote was mentioning. We are all scientists, only some of us have chosen to earn a salary by doing science. And if that story was not enough to impress me, a few weeks later, or maybe even in the next season when we went back to Garhwal, another story happened. This is not the lady with whom it happened, but I'm just using it in illustration. You can see a filter is attached to her neck. That is the filter that is absorbing the pollution, the smoke. And then we take the filter to the laboratory in Delhi, back home in Delhi, and measure it. So one of these ladies asked me, what has that you put around my neck? So we said, it's a filter, it's collecting smoke and dust particles. So she was a little more curious. So we showed her that before the experiment, the filter paper is white. And after the experiment is over, or after data collection is over, the filter paper will be brown, gray, or jet black. So we showed her 2 samples. One is of an unused filter paper, which is sparkling white, and the other is the exposed paper, filter paper, which is black or brown or some very horrible color. And this lady's immediate reaction was that, okay, you're telling me that the filter has become black and clogged because of pollution. So are you telling me that my lungs are also black? Again, my jaw dropped, because the lungs are also a filter. And she could make that connection, that if a paper filter can get clogged and blackened by pollution, then that's possibly what's happening to her lungs too, and probably also happening to her child's lungs. So if at all this nuclear scientist from Bhabha Atomic Research Center and IIT Bombay had any intellectual arrogance, these 2 stories just ensured that all that arrogance was shattered there and then. So that I began to believe in this concept. Now, in today's universities, they stress a lot on indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge systems, and young people are very fascinated by that concept, and funders are insisting that all projects incorporate indigenous knowledge and so on. So someone might ask me, why were you surprised? Why were you puzzled by indigenous knowledge? And I'll tell you why I was puzzled and why I was more surprised than I ought to have been. Our experiments had nothing to do with farming or with livestock or animal husbandry or forestry or biodiversity or underground water management. These are decisions that farmers have to take every day regarding agriculture, livestock, and so on. So they probably through the generations and through centuries have developed some traditional knowledge systems about these things. But our project or our experiment was about pollution. It was, as it is, a challenge to explain to the village leaders to get their permission that what is pollution, what is smoke, and so on. Why do we want to measure smoke? And then to expect that these villagers had some intuition, some common sense, even about such an abstract phenomena or a concept like toxic air pollution. That is what made my jaw really drop. So I remind you of that quote. We are all scientists, only some of us earn a salary by doing science. So what is the prevailing belief that only scientists working in public universities and government-owned laboratories or institutes can be the custodians of science? Certainly that was the belief when I was a young environmental scientist. So given that, how do we make the transition from a government-driven, government-dominated system to a citizen science system? Can we leapfrog? Can there be otherwise transitions? And it is my belief that in most places, especially in developing countries, leapfrogging can happen in small pockets, but most societies, most countries will have to go through a natural transition. And one stage of that transition is to start trusting NGOs. So another story that I had related to the fact that can NGOs be trusted to do science? So here is a brief case study of TERI's air monitoring program. TERI is very hard to classify. We found it hard to classify, then we find it hard to classify now. One thing we know for sure, TERI is not for profit thing, but otherwise, is it a think tank? Is it a research organization? Is it a policy advocacy or implementation organization? Is it all of them? Probably all of them. So that is the kind of mission or the structure of TERI at that time and probably now too. But such an organization then in the late 1990s started operating India's first ever public-oriented long-term air monitoring station and an associated public air quality index display board at Lodi Road in Delhi. And why I stress on public-oriented and long-term air monitoring station? Because yes, before us, many NGOs or many other private entities might have done air monitoring as a part of impact assessment or as a part of cross-checking a specific factory's emissions and so on. But I believe we were the first to say that we are doing just a public service by providing data which has no agenda. It's not cross-checking any emission source and so on. We just want the public to be aware of the air quality index and so on. So that created a lot of backlash. Initially, no one was concerned about it, but then certain government interventions happened, and our data showed that two things. Our data showed that, first of all, it is too early to comment on whether the intervention worked or not. That was the most important thing. Secondly, is that statistically speaking, the intervention had not caused much of a change in the air pollution in Delhi. So the backlash as expected from government laboratories was severe. I am not pointing blame here. I mean, not pointing fingers. Very nice people, whoever we interacted with, very professional, but each institute has its vested interests and they were just, acting on their boss's orders. But 3 different delegations from the government, from laboratory technicians to middle managers to high level officers at separate times visited our institution demanding, I use the word demanding, to see our facilities and our data. Incidentally, I just have to say here, this was all pioneered by Uma. Uma, I don't know if she's joined us today, but she is the leading figure behind this monitoring program, a very brave person. Yes, so these people, they came to our institute and made statements almost implying that we had fudged the data. And when we were able to show them our laboratory sources and resources, and also our actual filter papers, our actual reagents, everything that we use. In one case, one technician came to us saying that the boss is demanding that we take back samples of the used filter papers to show his bosses that, yeah, these people actually did some monitoring. over a period of time, they began to trust us. And interestingly, the government had a German consultant who they used to bring with them for the so-called inspection. And towards the end, the German expert came to us and whispered in our ears that you're doing a great job, don't stop it, irrespective of what pressure the government is putting on you. But again, I want to stress everyone we interacted with the government, very nice people. They're just acting on orders from high above. And over a period of time, we could build trust with each other, and the program succeeded for some years. So what are the lessons that we learned from this? One is that we ourselves should be very transparent and have an open door policy for our resources, for our data, and so on, irrespective of who comes to us asking us to show our facilities and data. We should just proactively show it to them. The other lesson we learned was that as scientists, Uma and I were scientists, Subrata was a scientist, we all had an extremely good relationship with Terry's communication team, who helped us navigate the media backlash. But also in the process, we learned that the media themselves are not particularly enlightened folks. Often no two of them can interpret our findings the same way. And initially, the media also believed that only government can do good science, no one else can do good science. But over a period of time, through various press conferences and so on, we were able to earn their trust too. Finally, we followed it up again. Uma, Annapurna, and others, they had this citizen science project in 10 schools of Delhi, funded by UNDP, involving the teachers and the children in monitoring the neighborhoods and monitoring even low-income neighborhoods around the school. That further reinforced the Delhi public's trust in Terry's air pollution program. So with that, I'd now switch to more theoretical thing of what are the benefits of citizen science. First of all, it really enables the size of data collection to increase exponentially, not just over geographical space, because scientists, their funding sources are limited. They cannot be everywhere. So with the citizen science network, the geographical spread is increased. But also what most people don't realize, that even the duration of projects can be increased once the professional scientists kickstart the process and hand over the citizen science project to the citizens. Then the data collection activity can go on for many, many years, even if the scientists themselves are not able to be involved, or if they retire, or if they move to another university, and so on. A more important benefit of that is sometimes the citizens can even suggest from their intuition, from their lived-in experiences, what indicators to use, what hypothesis to test, and so on. So that leads to a broader understanding of various phenomena. And finally, the major benefit is that the citizens feel a sense of ownership of the data, of the insights, and they feel connected to the research scientists. So types of data, typically when you think of citizen science, what type of data are collected in these projects? So in increasing order of complexity, I would say that, excuse me. Yeah, visual observations. And these could be either first getting trained by a scientist on what exactly to look for. If it's a bird watching project, you know, what features of the birds to look for, or like in Hawaii, there's an annual whale count. So how to identify the whale just by your eyes or using binoculars. So either trained or untrained visual observations, photographs, videos, sound and noise recordings. I don't know if, how many of you are aware, there are quite a few free apps that you can download on your phone that measure noise. So if you believe that your neighbor is being too noisy and the noise level is more than 60 decibels, you can use that app to record that and then take whatever action you feel comfortable with. Then personal drones, which will combine the photographs and videos from a height. And then finally, environmental measurements with actual instruments, which could be simple like thermometers, or which could be extremely complex like air sensors. And this is where I feel that I'm kind of a glutton for punishment, because I've chosen to work in the arena of air sensors, which happen to be one of the most complex data types to use in a citizen science project. So the history of CS, now there are many people who believe that citizen science is centuries old, that even before the profession of scientists, most amateur people, they came up with hypotheses, they collected data, and they proved hypothesis right or wrong and so on. But nevertheless, as a formal concept, people believe that it started in the mid-20th century. The term itself, citizen science, emerged in the late 1990s. And by early 2000s, it was being widely used in scholarly journals and in the development actors world. So some major examples of citizen science: in 1900, the Bird Watching Society, the Audubon, they started this Christmas bird count. And that's in fact one of the the flagship citizen science project that everyone thinks about. Then the other example is from 2006, the Globe at Night, where basically there is an app and citizens are trained to look at the sky 1 hour after sunset, look at how cloudy the sky is, and using the the phone's camera, take photos of the sky and upload it to a server, so you know how much light pollution there is, and so on. Now, interestingly, for those colleagues in Skill Council who have an interest in energy management, this data on light pollution has also relevance for energy modeling and energy management. And then also in the world of astronomy, many amateur astronomers, hobbyists have joined in the Galaxy Zoo to classify galaxies and get papers published in very prestigious astrophysics journals. So typically today, who leads or who coordinates citizen science efforts? So as you can guess, most of the time it is university scientists who conceive of the project, who lead the project, who coordinate the project. But also, as I've talked, that slowly we are beginning to see that NGOs and think tanks are also leading citizen science efforts. I have examples of how government agencies and municipalities have started their own citizen science effort. The US Park Service has some programs. But what is becoming more popular, and rightly so, is the collaboration among all the above actors. Now, who participates in citizen science efforts? These are basically, most of the projects are school and university students contributing the data, either as special projects or as part of their science club or so on. Amateur scientists and hobbyists are the next major group that participate in citizen science, urban citizens, and then finally, not so much, but still a growing population of rural citizens. So what are the current trends in citizen science? The advent of mobile applications has exponentially increased citizen science projects. And especially the youth, they're very eager to use any kind of mobile application to be able to collect data and upload the data. Then also, now we see a growth of online platforms which facilitate collaboration, data sharing, project management, so that it forms an interface between the data collectors, the students or the citizens, and the researchers. And interestingly, if at all someone felt that citizen science itself is boring, all that data collection is boring, some folks came up with the idea of gamification. So the app and the gamification elements provide a further motivation for young students to collect data and upload the same. What have been the strategies to effectively engage the public in citizen science? One is that to make sure that inclusivity standards are met and that people from different racial, ethnic backgrounds are represented in the sample of volunteers, different age groups are incorporated there, and different levels of physical abilities are installed. So the inclusivity factor is extremely important. We probably come back to this issue later. The accessibility, that if it's an app, how user-friendly that app is, or how user-friendly the web page is, and so on. Most importantly, the community involvement. To do these projects with the blessings of the local political authorities, the local social authorities, and so on, so that real sense of community participation is achieved. And finally, I would like to mention an issue which I'm a little concerned with, that we can classify the contributors of the data into two types. One, who have been requested by the scientists to provide data with maybe some amount of training, but beyond that, the scientists have no interest in further engagements with the contributors, ranging from anywhere that maybe the contributors are not fully acknowledged in the reports or in the papers, or the scientists simply wash their hands off the community once they have finished the data collection exercise. Probably the community even did not get feedback from the scientists on what the findings were, what is now called community report back ethical procedures. So on the traditional spectrum, that is what is happening. It's not the right way to go. On the other good side of the spectrum, you have co-designed efforts that even before designing the project, the scientists engage with the community in saying that, tell us what your problems are, tell us what indicators you would like to see measured, tell us how you think you would want to measure it, and so on. And once the reports are there, are you willing to write parts of the reports with us? Are you willing to, if I as a scientist and you as a citizen, we collect data together, if we write a report, are you willing to come to the local politician and talk to that politician about what we found? So that is the other end of the spectrum, the co-designed spectrum, end of the spectrum. Ethical considerations, like many other research endeavors, data privacy is an issue. I won't go into that. It's pretty commonsensical. But one issue I faced is the issue of real-time data sharing, because the kind of devices I use, a lot of them you can just buy it off Amazon. Even in India, you can buy it off Amazon. And once you install these sensors in homes, every minute that sensor is uploading data to a data aggregator website, and very often that data is then mapped in open access mapping platform. So people can look, so-and-so point in Bangalore, this is what the level of pollution is at in that home. You can look at it in the map. So some of these issues can be addressed by doing informed consents and typical research ethic clearance procedures. But the issue here was that in some research ethic committees require that data can be made public only after certain protocols have been met. That is, after weeks and weeks of data cleaning, data collection, aggregation, only then data can be uploaded to any public website. But in this case, we are actually wanting the data to be uploaded to mapping software and mapping platforms in real time. So there is a lot of gray fuzziness about research ethics there, which we are trying to resolve. Then, as I mentioned, attribution, how do you acknowledge the thousands of citizens who participated in your paper's publication? And finally, something which I think not many people have talked about, the digital divide. The low income people who probably don't have a smartphone, or even if they have a smartphone or a flip phone, cannot afford data packages, so can't afford the bandwidth to participate in citizen science projects. So that is an ethical concern as well. What are the tools and resources available for people who want to start off a project, a citizen science project? So one thing I found interesting is that now there are actually third-party vendors who will tell NGOs that you don't need to have IT people. You just tell us what is your environmental problem you're concerned about, what you want to measure, how you want to see the reports, and we will design the app for you. We will provide the cloud storage and computing, data analysis and visualization, and so on. So I've given examples of these third-party platforms which NGOs or communities can approach. I don't know, I'm not really sure how much they have to pay or if it is free, but it's interesting that between the scientists and the citizens, now there are these third-party vendors who have come into the game. Data visualization also they're offering, but my contention is that most citizens ought to be made aware of basic data analysis and visualization tools. So taking away that burden from them probably in the long run is not serving any purpose. Another interesting development, and especially in the instrumentation world, because these things can get pretty expensive, the air quality sensors, I might say water monitoring sensors, that some municipalities in their public libraries have a section where you can borrow the air sensors, just like you borrow a book from the library. In some cases in Hawaii, I've seen that you can borrow a ukulele or a guitar or a flute from the library and return it after 3 weeks. So same thing. US EPA has started a program where local libraries can loan the kind of physical instruments that are needed for citizen science work. What are the challenges for, especially for the instrumentation type of studies? Data reliability is a huge concern, and especially for air pollution sensors, the issue of calibrating it, not even having the access to facilities where one can calibrate the sensors, either by the citizens or by the manufacturers. That is a huge barrier. Then how do you train citizens on data quality protocols? I have found that it's hard even to train masters or students in data quality and data quality control procedures. So it's probably even more of a challenge to train the common citizen on quality control. Long-term volunteer engagement, how do you keep them motivated? Will there be a burnout after some, will the novelty of the project wear off after some time? And project sustainability, how do you keep getting funding for the, year after year for that? But more importantly, how do you transition from research to action? How do you engage future generations through STEM education that will foster their curiosity about science, about the environment, and outreach activity? And these are some of the things, like both in when I was at Terry, along with Uma and others, we did workshops in schools, public events in schools, and so on. So these things have to continue, and they'll only, if at all anything, they will just further enhance the desire for citizen science and the quality of the citizen science experiments. So let me now come to some very specific examples and projects. So I was pleasantly surprised just earlier this month when I was visiting Indian newspaper websites. I saw this in scroll.in, this article. Thanks to citizen scientists, a new species of catfish has been discovered in Kerala's aquifers. So I was intrigued, and I went back to the journal article in which it was published to look at the details. So apparently these scientists from Kerala and some maybe Western scientists, they trained villagers to look into water bodies and try to identify different type of fish. I'm no biologist, so I can't give you the details, but apparently they discovered a new species, Hora glemmis populi, And they chose to give the suffix populi because it means citizens, so derived from citizen science. So that was a nice story to read just a few weeks ago in Indian newspapers. An example from zoonotic diseases. And at this point, I want to give credit to an organization called the Mekong Environment Forum in Vietnam. They have very kindly provided me some slides so that I didn't have to copy and paste and type things all over again. So basically, I'm describing their project. This is not my project. It is the Mekong Environment Forum's project. It relates to, the COVID thing set off an interest in zoonotic diseases again after bird flu. So they wanted to get back into that kind of research, but and do citizen science work. But also one thing I found very relevant is that they had a focus on women. So if you recall in a few slides before, I said that there are inclusivity considerations to make sure that race, ethnicity, gender, LGBTQ, all those kind of parameters, inclusivity standards are met. So this group chose to focus on women, the health problems women face and how women can contribute as citizen scientists. So it was a decision tool support for government officials, and it focused on emerging and re-emerging diseases. The project promised to provide the citizens weekly updates and policy reports using gender-sensitive perspectives and so on. So this is what their app looks like. I don't know if some of you, all of you can see this clearly on the left side, the screen. When they, as citizen scientists, want to collect data and report the data, they hit the button report diseases. And in that, then there are various indicators like heat, human-wildlife interaction, water pollution, poor sanitation, mosquito habitats. They can maybe take a photo of a mosquito habitat and upload it, and the government official will get a notification that someone has found a mosquito habitat somewhere. So that is the kind of data being collected. But what is also impressed, if you look below that on number 2, it says need medical help. So they are being sensitive to the fact that the citizen is not only going to collect data for you, but if the citizen is herself experiencing an issue, the app must be a tool that she can use to report her own problem, not just the community's problem, but her own problem. And number 3 is even more fascinating, that it offers the citizen a way to donate or support local victims of zoonotic diseases. And then using all that data, they can look at different zoonotic diseases or climate change related diseases and look at the trends. Now, of course, the team informed me that these kind of charts only the government officials or scientists can interpret, and they are still working on how to translate all this in the Vietnamese language in ways that the villagers themselves can understand these graphs and these charts. The example from air pollution, my own work at the East-West Center, we started something in 2018, and it's a work in progress because after that COVID happened in the next 3 years, we couldn't do any field work. But our work, whatever we managed to do, was in the field of awareness raising, just like what I'm doing today, capacity building. We provided sensors to partners in India and Vietnam, training of my collaborators in Vietnam and India, including their students, proof of concept activities, and building an ecosystem network of partners who can then launch a full-fledged citizen science project. These are the partners in the 2 countries that we are working with. So right now in the world, there is a huge variety of low-cost sensors that mostly they are, to be kept somewhere in a room or just a little somewhere on a pole outside your house. One group in UK designed a citizen science project for school children. So their school bag at the base had an inlet where the air would be absorbed and be fed into sensors to look at the air pollution as the child traveled from home to school. And here is me in Bombay. In my pocket is one of the sensors called Air Beam. I'm traveling in an auto rickshaw. In Vietnam, on a motorbike, with one of the students helping me out with this. In Saigon, on my waist here, you can see the same device. In Bangkok, yet another brand, superior, AI technology. So you would say, where is the citizen here? You only are seeing a scientist in these photographs. Where is the citizen? So as I said, COVID happened. We couldn't really engage the citizens, but we used the opportunity then to to test these instruments and to test the protocols for using these instruments. Is just pretending to be a citizen. That if I was a citizen, if I was carrying the sensor in Bangkok, what issues would I face? For how long would the battery charge remain? If a piece of cloth covers the sensor, how it's going to affect the values of air pollution and so on. And using these devices, then you get this kind of information. This is a trip I made from Powai to Bandra Kurla complex in Bombay. And the yellow parts of the route show medium levels of pollution. The red spots show high points of pollution. Typically, these would be traffic signals where all the vehicles around my auto rickshaw are idling. And so there is increased emissions. So this kind of things, these maps and these kind of insights are possible. And just map it out. And I would say that if anyone is comfortable buying a Fitbit and wearing a Fitbit and connecting the Fitbit to the phone by Bluetooth, they will be comfortable using these sensors as well. Maybe just a little more amount of training to understand these graphs and these maps. So what is the intention of these, at least in my case, in my projects? What is the data going to be used for? And it is my passion, it is my interest to focus on the decisions that the individual has to make. Can the individual decide to change the route on a particular day? Just like in the Google road map, when you see that red stretch in front of you where there's a traffic jam, and you can then choose to make a diversion. If you know up ahead, the road is very polluted, and if your child who has asthma is sitting in the car, do you want to just take a diversion? Do you want to stop for a while till the pollution clears? Can you change the time of your activities, or when do you want to travel during peak period or off-peak period to avoid pollution? Do you want to exercise during certain times of the day when it's less polluted outside, or so on? Or like once when there was a Chennai water crisis, people were told to stay at home because the offices could not provide water to the workers. So will that kind of individual decisions be possible? So that is the intention of my type of citizen science studies. I want data which will empower individuals to make decisions at their level based on data that is actually relevant to them, not a data that is measured 5 kilometers away from their home or 5 kilometers away from their office. Solar energy. This is a European project which again is app-based. It's called Greco. And basically what it does, it is co-creates an open database of where residential solar installations are located. If you own a house, if you have a solar installation on top of the house, if you want to share the GPS coordinates of your house with this database and tell them how many panels you have, how many wattage it's generating, how much is your appliance electricity consumption, and so on. So that is what the citizen science project is about, and that app. But what I found more fascinating, not just the app, but the process by which they decided on the citizen science project. So the first step is they interviewed 90 professionals from the solar energy field, researchers, policymakers, and asked them that how do you think in your work citizens can collaborate with you to get the data that you want to do for your modeling or your energy management plans. And even more important, this group was asked that, okay, once these citizens have given you the data, what are you going to give them in return? So that was really applause worthy. Step 2, they organized a hackathon to get ideas for citizen science projects. They chose 12 final projects, and then they used 6 criteria Again, what I liked about this project was it is a multidisciplinary criteria, not just an engineering criteria, not just an economic criteria, but other disciplines too. And they chose one finalist. And then that finalist was asked to develop the app, and other stakeholders were asked to join that prize winner in developing the app and the citizen science thing. So I thought this process, this 4-step process, and some modifications of it can be used by other people who want to design citizen science projects in a holistic manner. And they actually then went on to publish even a scholarly article in a journal describing this entire procedure. So to conclude, sorry, I've taken probably a lot of time here. I think this field will grow rapidly largely because of the information and communication technology and the people's fascination with ICT. And at least in cases like air pollution, where people are so fed up with the levels of pollution that they will start demanding data that are relevant to their homes, relevant to their children's schools and so on. But as I said, the ethical considerations have to catch up. We need to have protocols in place for that. Funders should not be too technocratic, but should also give preference to actually co-designed projects. And finally, there's not been too much work done on how this data collection can be actually linked with actions and policy recommendations. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Dr. Saxena. Yeah. So I think this was an eye-opener for me. Post-COVID, in fact, when we have all the missions and all launched in the country, I think there are certain apps which have been developed locally, like you say for NDMC or with the MCDs, where they would ask you that if you come across any accumulated waste or anything, you can put a picture. And then, of course, this sort of a participation I have come across. And of course, surveys and all are there, though we at our level are not very forthcoming in participating in these surveys, because we feel pata nahi kya information le lenge. So this sort of a feeling has to be overcome. We have to have more awareness and more this thing. I think one Mr. Mohit Lal had raised his hand. Can you give him the rights? Mohit?
Yes, ma'am. I already gave rights to everyone.
Yeah, please, Mr. Mohit, if you have a question. Mohit? I think he's saying some nahi hai shayad wo hai na. He's not there. Ask if there are any other questions, if there are any. I was just listening to you odd, how we can do it, it's a big question mark. There's a lot of information which has to be gathered, and there's a lot of perception which has to be changed. You'll agree with me, maybe in our country we don't have that same sort of this thing. Dr. Saksena, if you're there, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm here, and in fact, I was listening very, very carefully. Such a beautiful, interesting topic. But yes, that sensitization has to come. And let me put on record. Thank you so much, Dr. Saksena. We had a long association. I remember when you were in Terry and things like that. So it's such a pleasure listening to you. And we would in fact, I don't know whether they have told you or not, your lecture would be placed on one of our portals where they can be accessed by any of the candidates. So thank you so much, and let there be a formal thanks, Raksha.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Saksena, and thank you very much all the participants who have come and who have listened. And I think everyone must be simply awed by the details you have presented, and we would like to imbibe more. And then once we assimilate, we will like to come back to you and interact more, and how we can I think Dr. Saksena will agree, how we can take it forward in terms of the
Absolutely.
entire, I put this in one of the groups and somebody asked me, okay, how is this related? So I said, we are all looking at the SDGs and energy, environment, health. These are all with the SDGs. And if citizen science, if we as individuals can contribute, so this is very much relevant to us. So
In fact, net zero or SDGs cannot be achieved if all of us do not contribute in that. That's just not possible, frankly speaking. It's not only left to industry or left to government, but it has to be with everybody's involvement.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Saksena, and I'll ask Mr. PB Singh to kindly give the formal vote of thanks to everyone, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, CU sir. First, I would like to thank Dr. Sumeet for accepting our invitation for this presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sumeet, for your excellent presentation. You explain very well. Hope participants are benefited with the presentation. Thank you once again, Dr. Sumeet, for your very informative presentation. I would share, several old colleagues joined today's in webinar. Mala Damodran, Dr. S.M. Srinivas, Ajay Sharma, Anand, so many joined today's your presentation. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants for their valuable time and patiently listen. Thank you all for your support. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I also would like to thank the organizers for inviting me. And at any time you need more information or any assistance we can provide, most happy to do so. I think especially the last paper on solar energy, and they explained step by step how to create a citizen science project. That is probably very relevant to kind of the work that SCGJ does, if I have understood correctly. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumeet.
Thank you, ma'am.